Here we've got a demonstration for the soldiers of the reinforcement unit of how gunship support works. And there we've got an RAAF gunship, which were called Bushrangers, being looked at by the diggers to see how they were armed and what they looked like, and shortly how they fired. That chap in the centre is a platoon commander, whose name, once again, unfortunately I can't remember. And here we've got the effect of a gunship firing, probably a minigun, firing 6,000 rounds a minute at a target on the ground in front of us. You can just see the flashes of the minigun firing and then firing rockets. Hopefully not now. The RAAF gunships were just ordinary helicopters fitted with the armament, as were some of the American gunships, but later on specialised helicopters were built for the task. That's a minigun firing on a ground target. The 6,000 rounds a minute being fired from these guns made a horrendous ripping noise. And at night, it looked like the rounds coming out of the guns looked like a stream of fire made up of the tracer rounds in amongst the ordinary rounds. Some of the audience. Anybody who looks clean didn't belong to the reinforcement unit. Probably RAAF, who had lovely, comfortable beds to sleep in at night at Vung Tau. Those are the miniguns. Well, that's a minigun to the right and the rockets to the left. Now we've got, this picture looks like it's taken from the top of an armoured command vehicle out in the field at an artillery fire support base. I think it's a New Zealand base, which is possibly a base occupied by our direct support battery. And the reason I identified it as New Zealand is because shortly we'll see a Land Rover, which is not an Australian Land Rover, but a New Zealand one. You can see the defences of barbed wire and some sandbags and living positions, command post positions, ammunition storage. And what looks like the Nui Din Hills in the background there. The fire support positions, of course, there's that New Zealand Land Rover. The fire support positions, of course, were occupied so as to enhance the range of the of our supporting artillery to get it closer to the target. The longer range artillery we had at Nui Dat came from the Americans. The 155mm self-propelled howitzers had a range of about 18 kilometres. The 8-inch self-propelled guns had a range of about 18 kilometres as well. And the 175mm guns have a range of 27 kilometres. But they weren't quite so accurate as the 155mm and the 8-inch millimetre. During my first tour with 6 RAR, I had a United States Army Artillery Forward Observation Officer with me, and I was able to use the United States 155mm guns quite a bit, and they're extremely accurate. And during the whole 12 months that 6 RAR was in theatre there, the United States guns didn't make one error whatsoever, whereas we did suffer errors from particularly the New Zealand artillery, which in the early days wasn't really prepared for the war. This now, we move on to the demonstration of the effect of mortar fire on defences that you might think are protecting you. And if you get a direct hit by a mortar bomb, you'll see that, like just there, it's not a good thing. The sandbags get blown off and the corrugated iron gets blown apart. So this is trying to get into the heads of the troops that if they're going to have overhead protection, it's got to be very deep. Now, we're back at either Binbar or Nui Dat, where the Australian construction squadron based at Vung Tau was involved in building housing for the Vietnamese, probably for the local protection forces, the village forces. They all had names, these forces, but I'm hanged if I can remember them now. And the commander of the Australian Civil Affairs Unit at the time was Lieutenant Colonel Laurie Wright, who had been a member of my course, the first course, at OCS, Officer Cadet School, Portsea, back in 1952. And Laurie is about 3 years older than I am, but he's still around and still appears to me to be very fit and chipper. There he is. And Laurie lives on the North Shore of Sydney. This looks to be Hua Long village, which was very, very much an enemy village in the days when we were first there in 1966. On one occasion, the Viet Cong made a crowd of women get out on the road and stop a military police vehicle. And after the vehicle stopped, they opened fire on it. And the military police vehicle made it to Nui Dat, but everybody in it was wounded. Another time they called for help because a girl was sick, and when the doctor, our doctor, got down there, he found the girl had been disemboweled by the Viet Cong, and the doctor and his party were ambushed. So it wasn't all joy and delight.